Hi, good evening, Julie. How are you doing?
I'm doing well today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, doing good.
Good.
Well, we have been knowing each other for a while. Uh,
Yeah.
right, and so I'd like to kind of to know more and also about your involvement with FAIR, and also have you explain to my audience what does FAIR do. Um,
Sure.
yeah, and so we start with that. So when did you uh, join FAIR?
Would have been back in May.
Okay, this May, right?
Back in May. Yes, I saw
Right.
them online. I came across, I don't know if it was Facebook or an email or how I came upon them, but
Okay. So you reached out to them.
yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did it attract you to join their group?
Well, back in May, they were still like at the beginning stages of kind of ramping up.
Hmm.
We had people from all over the country who were doing what I did.
Okay.
Found them interesting and decided to contact them. Um, I liked their pro-human.
Hmm.
They're not necessarily anti something, they're
Right.
pro-human.
Right.
And I think we get further in conversations when we can figure out what we're for instead of arguing about what we're against.
Yeah. Well, I think you introduced me to that, and so I kind of searched them up, and I kind of watched their some videos
Yeah.
they produced, and especially the founder. Um, I forgot his name.
Bion Bartning.
Yeah, Brian Barney. Yeah, Brian Barney, and he was actually, I mean, he is a businessman, and he didn't really start. He didn't really want to pick the fight.
He
Is
didn't.
because the school actually is a push that, and that was actually a private and very expensive school.
Yes, very
Yeah,
much so.
right. And so I think they were pushing the critical race theory. I mean, they are not teaching it, right? Nobody's saying that they are teaching CRT as a
Well,
subject. It's just like the
they put it into
ideology,
praxis.
the practice they pushes down,
Exactly.
right?
I
Yeah,
mean, it is a college level, master's level legal theory
right,
that taught in law schools, but it has filtered down and is now being put into practice in
right,
schools all over the country.
right. And actually, I think the first, well, they start in the law school, and then that pretty quickly get picked up by education, teachers colleges or school educations. So
Well,
that,
and not just there, but the whole the whole critical theories. It
right.
isn't just about race. There's all critical social justice, there's critical
Hmm.
philosophy, critical, I mean, that's why everything gets tied together under these critical theories.
Right.
And race is just one of the faces
Right, right.
that
Yeah,
we
I
see.
think in education is called critical pedagogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, before May, what did you do? How did you get involved in this fight?
Um, I am a long time education entrepreneur, I
Right.
guess.
Hmm.
I homeschooled all of my own kids pretty much all the way through until we moved to Indiana. And then I had a son that needed more than I could offer.
Mm.
And I had him go to a charter school where he could get, it was either university or a charter school. And I decided he needed social skills more than he needed advanced academics.
Right, right.
But I've been involved in my kids' education on a very intimate level all the way through.
All right.
And so I'm just naturally very interested, and I
In that,
continue to be interested in what's going on in the field.
right.
And now I have 11, 12, 13 grandkids
oh, right,
who
right,
are in
right,
schools all over the place.
right,
And yeah, so I continue to be interested in
right. You
what's
have
going
to,
on in
right?
schools.
As a grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what makes you start homeschool? Which state you were in at that time?
I was in Maine.
Okay.
And I liked my kids.
Okay.
I liked being with my kids.
Right.
I wanted to be the one that got to see the light in their eyes
Yeah.
when they got something.
Right.
When it's like, oh, that's what that is.
Right.
I wanted to be part of that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I figured I knew my kids better than anybody else knew my
Oh,
kids.
yeah. That's something like parents has to keep that in mind, that they know their kids the best.
They are the expert on their kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because
my oldest would probably have been recommended to be put on a medication for ADHD.
Oh, right.
He went to kindergarten reading simple sentences, and at the end of kindergarten he hated school. And I just decided that was for me, that was that.
Right. Well, why is that? It's because he's too advanced. He was too advanced for first grade.
He has some attention, issues. He did have a hard time, and I had to make adjustments to how we did things.
Right. How you educate him. Okay.
Was a very bright kid.
Right.
And was more interested in the dust patterns floating in the air than what the teacher was saying, but also could hear what the teacher was saying. So at one point we went in for a parent teacher conference, and his teacher told me that she'd called him out one day, but Eric, what did I just say? Because he was dreaming out the window, and he told her verbatim what she had just said. So that was kind of, he needs to have more. He just needed more. So
well, yeah. My son, when he was in first grade, he was the whole I think first through third, and he was so bored because when he was he went to a private kindergarten. So when he graduated from that, he already know like third grade math and third grade, actually probably fourth grade language.
Yeah.
So he was just totally bored. And fortunately, they have back then it's called the extended learning, which is basically the advanced program. So the whole school district, they put those kids into one classroom. So that's where he was able to actually enjoy school, the fourth and fifth. But then when he got to middle school, they don't have that program. So he actually got into that kind of board situation again. And eventually when he got to high school, I just had to take him, homeschool him.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, just got bored.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that.
So, when did you actually heard about CRT?
I started hearing about it before I got involved with FAIR, but it was just kind of, I think during COVID, I think parents started to see some of the things that their kids were being asked to do, some of the identities they were being asked to, reveal about themselves, or kind of tag themselves as a certain identity, and they're really too young to know who and what they are yet.
Right.
And so I started hearing about that during COVID.
Okay.
And as it started to become contentious, and there was a perfect storm. People wanted schools to open, and they didn't have masks in schools, and there was CRT, and there were all these things that just kind of converged all at the same time.
Okay.
And I just decided it was kind of a disaster out there, and I was looking for sane voices. Really. Not because on the far right wing, there's some pretty nutty stuff, and on the far left, there's some pretty nutty stuff. And I was looking for the sane people in the middle.
Yeah. Well, nowadays it's very hard to be in the middle.
Oh, yeah. The arrows are going over from both sides.
Right. Exactly.
Sure. I figure if I've offended somebody on both sides, I'm doing my job.
Yeah. It's kind of hard in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what fair is, right? Fair is pretty much just in the middle in terms political, uh,
They try really hard to maintain that middle ground, actually,
mhm.
because on the advisors, if you look at their list of advisors, there are some people who are self-identified as fairly leftist, but they're classical liberals. They
Right,
really
right,
do believe in the free thought process.
right. So
And then
yeah,
there are a few fairly conservative people. So it's a really good balance.
right. And I really appreciate that Barry Wise, who is
Yeah,
on the board of director, I think, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
She's pretty fearless.
I have been following her podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, another person I learned a lot is Jordan Peterson.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have been a fan of Jordan Peterson's
right.
for a while.
Yeah, he is not. I mean, he's not a conservative, but the media is trying to make him like a right wing.
He's on the alt right. Yeah, part
He's
of the intellectual dark web,
right,
whatever that means.
right, but
Yeah,
he's actually a classic liberal, a
he
humanist. I think that's how he identifies.
yeah, very much so, very much
Mm,
so.
yeah, I think that's in a way that's what fair is. Like you say, pro-human. So basically, is uh, in a way, in terms I mean, political ideology is more classic liberal. Is that I mean,
I would say so, yes.
right? You
That's
kind of like
why I like them.
right. You can say, okay,
Yeah,
if I mean, if I don't agree with you, but I still let you to say what you in your mind, right? Let's have a conversation. Let's
exactly.
talk instead of like kind of say you are such a bad person. You shouldn't
There is
even
there is power in open dialogue
right,
because sometimes I might be wrong
right.
and
That's
sometimes
the
you might
thing,
be wrong.
right?
And
That's
I like to have those calm rational conversations with people so that I can understand where they're coming from.
right,
They can understand where I'm coming from, and we can adjust our views as the truth is revealed. And I
right,
might be wrong.
right, right. Exactly. I mean, that's how we learn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way we can learn is because we know we could be wrong. No matter
Yeah.
how sure we still can be wrong, right? That's basically what science is, right?
Exactly. I mean,
Mhm.
anytime somebody tells me the science on this is settled, I'm like, then
No,
your
no,
definition of
never.
science and mine is completely different.
Exactly. Science can never be settled.
No.
And also many times, like I had a PhD in electrical engineering, so I was trained as a scientist. I mean, as a scientist, no matter what you do, it's always educate guess. You just
Right.
don't have all the information that available to you, right? You just
Yeah.
make a guess. I mean, you could be wrong. You make a model, you make a prediction, and you could be wrong. I mean, all the
Yeah.
scientists, I mean, if they do research, I mean,
And if
that's what they know, that's what they believe. But then everything become politicized. They say, oh, okay,
Well, and if you don't assume that you could be wrong, then you're missing
right,
so much information that might come your way
right. But
that
yeah,
especially in science that could help mankind. I mean,
right, right.
yeah.
But unfortunately, at least in politics, people just want power. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
why they are not interested to know the truth.
Yeah.
And
And that's what the whole critical social justice movement, the
right,
critical theories, it's all wrapped around power dynamics.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
all yeah. They talk about like power differential is always like uh, the dynamic of oppressor and oppressed. So
exactly.
it's trying to gain basically they're trying to get power. Whoever kind of promoting that's all
Right.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and right, and um, so can you share more about your understanding of CRT?
Well, critical race theory, kind of in a nutshell, for the critical race theory as opposed
Right,
to the other critical theories, but it really is to see everything through the lens of race.
Mhm.
So if there is a difference between how one race to another, the results of anything, socioeconomic, it doesn't even matter, education, there's all kinds of education gaps right now.
Right.
And we're very quick to say it's all about race.
Right.
And it may be about socioeconomics, but we're not taking that into account. And that's
No.
the danger. When
Right.
we only look through the one lens, we miss. I mean, if you've ever gone to an eye doctor's appointment and the eye doctor puts all those various lenses, like which one do you see better?
Yeah.
You know, and it takes a number of different lenses together for you to actually see clearly.
Right.
And critical race theory is just one lens. And if we can't use all the various lenses out there to see the world, then I think we're really missing it.
Right, exactly. I mean, in a way, it has its place, which is in the university, academic, in a way, and also, I mean, it's okay to say things through that lens, but like you said, you have to realize that's just one perspective. You need to have two other lenses allow you to find out what really is.
Yes,
but
I think that our country has had some serious issues with
Right.
race. And we have to be able to be honest about what those were and what they are.
Right.
Because we still have some serious issues wrapped around race.
Yeah.
But if we're trying to find the problem through just one lens, we're fixing just part of the problem.
Right. And also it become not really fixing it, because if you just like when you go see a doctor, if a doctor kind of make the
it can make it worse.
Yeah, if you misdiagnose your situation, you can make that worse. Yeah. And personally, in my case, I mean, it's also easy for doctor to do that mistake. We understand that. I was diagnosed as depression in 2010.
Yeah.
Okay, I went through. I mean, I had that since my teenager years. I just didn't know what it is.
Okay.
I mean, I have a struggle with it and suffer that. But 2010, I was diagnosed as depression, so I had medication. But my doctor, the psychiatrist, he was not aware that I had some maniac experience before.
Okay.
Sure. So I mean, the medication did help me out of depression, but that also pushed me into the manic because so that's how he knew that actually I was bipolar.
Yeah.
Same thing, just example, because he didn't know.
That's an excellent example.
Actually, yeah, he didn't know. So that's the thing, you could do something wrong, you could seriously hurt, and especially now people get hurt are people in those lower socioeconomic the whatever class or section is.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, when everything goes through the lens of race, it definitely will make you make the wrong diagnosis.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we forget how much class plays into the dynamics, the power dynamics in the country. I think that people that get, and again, there are racial issues in this country that we have got to be able to talk about and address and figure out. Yeah,
I think Americans are okay. I mean, are ready for that. Are okay with that. So I mean, talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Most Americans are kind of okay with it. Of course, later on they realize that, oh, something is actually wrong, because the organizers, I mean, the organization behind it was actually neo-Marxists. But when it was started, I mean, people are okay with it, and I think most Americans are not only okay, they actually want to do something about it, right?
I think that there's a lot of room to support local
Right.
Black Lives Matters movements,
Right.
but it's the big organization
Right.
that
Yeah.
when you get online and you donate to BLM, it goes into the big organization.
Right.
It doesn't go to your local
No,
to
no,
do
no, no,
work
no, no.
in your city, in your
Right.
neighborhood.
Exactly. And that's something we
yeah,
need to address, especially Indianapolis. We all see that, right? The inner city IPS is such a mess, and we need to address that. But the thing is, it's not just race, because I like 2018, I can did some experiment, start my own school in um,
yeah.
base, I think base Hendrick.
Bates
That
Hendricks, yes.
Yeah, it's close to Fountain Square. Okay,
Yeah.
and that neighborhood, they basically have, I think it's about half white, a quarter
Demographically, yeah.
black, and quarter Hispanic.
Yeah.
They all suffered the same thing. Education was bad too. Doesn't matter if it's white or brown or black. The education was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it has nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, so if you're only looking through the lens of race, you are not really see the true picture, and
Right.
you could get really get it wrong. And what I got involved actually is because I heard Combo Clay School, they had this DEI officer. So I mean, sounds actually sounds nice. Diversity,
I
inclusion,
am all
equity.
for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
But
yes,
why do you hire someone to kind of for that? And the role of that person is really trying to educate teachers, right? And that kind of remind me of something I was familiar when I was growing up during the Cultural Revolution.
in China,
It's
yes.
the political officers, is
Yeah.
Commissar, former Soviet Union. That's their job, is doing
Yeah.
that. So from that point, I started to research, and a lot of schools on their website have recommended books for diversity. Now, one of the book is Ibram Kennedy's book, How to Be an
How to be an
Anti-Racist.
anti-racist, Ibram
So,
Kendi, yes.
Yeah, Abraham
And
Kennedy.
Robin
So
DeAngelo's White Fragility.
exactly, those two normally is there. I mean,
Yeah.
in my school district is Central Grove School District. That's was in the website for the resource for high school student and parents to read about it.
Yeah.
So I kind of spend a week actually. I was on a camping trip, so I spent a week there just reading that. How to be anti-racist. I mean, the book actually is
that one was actually okay. Well written.
Right.
The White Fragility book has got to be about the worst, poorest written book I have ever laid eyes on.
Wow. But actually, reading wise,
but she made a couple of decent points. Right. You know.
Right. Well, but anyway, like when I was reading that, and I find that all the example he gave, that was before the 1960s.
Yeah.
And so that's the past already. But then he's making the claim that we have systemic racism is simply because
nothing has changed.
So, well, he said there's some, I mean, he definitely recognized something got changed policy-wise, right? But he said that those change does not make any difference because now you will still have racial disparity. Mm-hmm. So the way he look at it is really looking, it is a false way to evaluate. It's basically look at, okay, based on the demographic percentage. So if you have like, say 30% of Black, then you should have 30% teachers or 30% CEOs or 30%. I mean, that's not the right way to evaluate.
I think that probably the best example of what's wrong with that kind of thinking is very current. And
Right.
it has to do with vaccine mandates
Mhm.
let's use New York City
Okay.
or any other urban city that
Okay.
is having a vaccine mandate. African Americans are some of the least vaccinated people in the country
Okay.
for a number of historical reasons.
Okay.
Okay. So if you enforce a vaccine mandate in a city that has a high minority population, because
Mhm.
Hispanics are also
Right.
less likely to be vaccinated,
Mm.
then you are going to have a disproportionate effect
Right.
on those minority
Right.
populations.
Yeah. And then
And that has nothing to do with
racism.
the
No.
race of the
Right.
racism of the policy.
Yeah.
It has to do with the personal choices
Yeah.
of the people who have decided not to vaccinate. And I vaccinated, I'm at risk.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I have issues, but that is one of the best, I think, examples of why we have to not just look through the lens of race.
Right. And
That
then
disproportionate effect.
right. And then he used that as the evidence to support the claim that America is inherently racist.
Right.
That's just wrong. I mean, when you say something is inherently racist, what can you do? You're going to
You've
destroy
already
it, right?
judged and
You're
yeah.
you're going to overturn it. You're going to make something new out of it.
And it
I mean,
also
that's the message they are trying to send, which is very dangerous.
well, and I think it also doesn't take into account the massive and growing, exponentially growing population of mixed race people in this
Right.
country.
Yeah.
Who do they line up with? If
Right.
dad is African American and mom is white, or mom is Hispanic and dad is black, or I like, who do these kids line up with?
Yeah.
And I think that we're creating a problem
Right.
instead of solving one.
Exactly.
And my family is, my family's a really great example because
Right.
we have, we are the UN in
Right.
it just
Yeah.
almost every variation you can think of. I've got a grandchild that's who they are.
Yeah. And also through their lens, it can become so ridiculous because from their point of view, even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a racist.
And that's the part that I understand, and most thinking people understand that when we talk about a colorblind society, we are not talking literal, because I am always going to see color. It's
Right.
how my eyes work.
Right.
That is a figurative. That's a metaphor. That is not a literal description.
Yeah, it's in a way.
We have now become anti-colorblind. Now we have to see color in everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I think in a way it's kind of like we say justice is blind, right? It's like, which means that it doesn't matter your social status, your economic status, you be treated the same, but they still have a social difference, right? Same thing with color. I mean, definitely there's going to be some racial differences, but we shouldn't treat anyone based on race. And
I think we should be looking more at those socioeconomic things,
right.
Because if you have a person of color who commits a crime,
Mm-hmm.
who is from an affluent family,
right.
Their family is going to be able to afford the attorneys.
Oh, yeah.
Their family is going to be able to do everything that a white family or an Asian family might be able to do.
All right.
But if they're coming from a lower socioeconomic status, and whether they're black, white,
doesn't
Asian,
matter.
it doesn't matter. The lower in the economic status you are, the less chance you have of that blind justice, in my opinion, because there are issues in our justice system that we have got to address.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you mean if you are not rich enough, you just cannot hire a good lawyer, and then I mean, something.
And that's not to say that in some areas of the country, their race is still going to play a part in that.
Oh yeah.
How big a part in that, I think we have to have more reasoned discussions about.
Yeah, and also I think we can address it. We can fix it. That's the thing. We don't have to, destroy the system we have and
Yeah,
get something new. But that's their message. It's basically, they believe
yeah.
that there's nothing we can do. So that's
But
their
burn it all
conclusion.
down,
Yeah,
which
we
is
have to
why Seattle and I
burn
mean,
the house down, is kind of thing. And
exactly.
also, I mean, if you look at Kennedy's book, his solution is even worse.
I know.
He's
Use racism to cure racism.
right. He's actually using racial discrimination
Yeah.
to solve racial discrimination.
Yeah, and D'Angelo's book, she's like the original. To me, she's the original Karen. She is that white liberal who didn't think she had a racist bone in her body, and one day woke up and decided, oh my God, I'm a racist.
Right.
And if I am, then everybody else I know must be.
Yeah.
And so she painted everybody around her with the same brush. And it's like, no, hun, you just, you kind of need to cure your heart.
Right. Maybe you were, but
yeah. Yeah. Some of the personal anecdotes in her book just screamed at me. This woman is a blatant racist.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And now he make a lot of money by
I know, right?
playing that risk card. Wow.
Well, and that's become, when you look at the people who are making the most money off this, it's rich white liberals.
Oh yeah.
And that is just painfully ironic.
Yeah, actually, there's actually a kind of interesting kind of story. Curtis Hill, the former Attorney
Yes.
General.
Yes.
He's African American. So at one meeting, I kind of asked him, like, what do you think about critical race theory? And his response is that I haven't heard any black people talking about it.
I have heard people of color talking about it, and by and large, the people that I know personally, they're not in favor of it, because they do not want their children being told that no matter what you do, society is going to be against you.
Right.
You are oppressed, and you will always be oppressed.
Right.
And that is just such a negative influence on kids.
Well, so far, like you said, I mean, most people are very active about it. Most of them are white. White liberals.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't think they are liberals. I mean, they are more, maybe the better term is progressives, because they don't really believe in.
They're not free thinkers.
Right. Yeah. They don't believe in liberalism.
In the classical sense, no.
Right. They said, okay, if you think different from us, then you must be a horrible person. So therefore, because you're a horrible person, so you are not allowed to speak. I mean, they can just cut you off. Yeah, there's actually a true story here at the south from me. It's a Clark Pleasant School District. Okay, the superintendent actually wrote an email to parents, kind of denounce his whiteness.
Yeah, like he can help it. I mean, these immutable things that I can't help that I have weird greenish, brownish eyes. Right. I can't help that there are some things I can help. There are some things I can change about myself, but to judge people on the things that cannot be changed is insanity.
Right.
And it was insane when America was doing it to people of color. And so that, I mean, it's as insane on the left as it was on the right.
Right.
It's just insane, period.
Yeah. So, it is. Yeah. And also, if you read his book, and his message is that you are either anti-racist or you're racist. I mean, there's no choice. I mean, and if you don't join them, then by definition, you are anti-racist.
Well, and D'Angelo makes the same point.
Okay.
If you, yeah, like there's a problem with falsifiability from a scientific point. I mean, if you're actually talking about logic and reason,
Mhm.
those are not falsifiable. You can't prove that wrong.
Right.
Like, I don't agree with you, therefore I'm a racist. I agree with you, therefore I'm a racist.
Doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So,
and what is dangerous from what I see is that ideology is going to basically trying to wipe out the West, the whole West civilization.
oh yeah,
Because
because you're seeing problems in Great Britain right now. You're seeing problems in Canada. You're seeing problems all over Australia has gone just nuts.
right,
And yeah, there are issues all over, and it is about power.
right, about power. And also basically they
About
say
power.
that basically Western civilization, of course, because European, right, are all white. So the Western civilization is going to maintain, you know, the power for the white people. So therefore, in order for the people of color to gain power, is basically to uh, basically erase or destroy Western culture or Western civilization.
Well,
That is
I think that attitude, and there's a lot of that out there.
right.
You the chart that the Smithsonian put out a couple of years ago. Being on time is a white thing. Being
Yeah,
conscientious
yeah.
in your job is a white thing.
And also
That is just so
right,
demeaning.
and also
Every
right, and also they called Mary, Mary,
meritocracy.
yeah,
Yeah,
meritocracy. And so, what do you
yeah,
mean by that? I mean, shouldn't people get, rewarded because they are more capable and they do more
exactly.
work?
But
Yeah,
I think it shows an ignorance of history.
right,
Because right now there's 2 + 2 used to equal 4, and now it doesn't.
no,
It could be almost
that
anything,
right,
and that accuracy in mathematics is a white thing.
right. It's white.
And I'm like, but if you look at the history of mathematics, that was Arabic.
Right,
That was the math was really started in the Arabic countries. That wasn't a Western thing. It filtered into, and then we had calculus, and every civilization builds
contribute
on and
to it.
expands,
Right.
and but nowadays we couldn't do that because it would be cultural appropriation.
Yeah, and also the reason the
So
Arabs give us like algebra
yeah.
is because they actually was able to save the books from the ancient Greek. Remember
From even further back.
right? I mean, like the library in Alexandria
Yeah.
that was burned down, but
Yeah.
the Arabs actually kept a lot of works from the
Yeah.
ancient Greek. So they actually did a lot of translation. And that's how actually the Europeans got to know about the Greek culture and the Greek work is actually
so much.
through the translation by the Arabs. And
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, of course, we talk about even
Yeah.
our numerals actually we learned from the Arab. And,
Exactly.
and one thing actually kind of interesting, I didn't know that until about a year ago. And the way we do math, actually, we still have that Arabic tradition, because when you look at it, we're adding two numbers, right? How we go that? We actually from right to left.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how we do it, because
Yeah. Which is
another,
how the Eastern languages are read from right
yeah,
to left.
right to left.
Yeah.
And also we still have some. If you actually, I don't know if you have you read Jane Austen?
Uh-huh.
No. So back then, when the British say the numbers, they start with smaller number and up, and they don't say 22, right? When not Austen, Pride and Prejudice, right?
Okay.
When the main what's her name? Liz.
Yeah.
was asked about her age. She said, I'm 1 and 20.
Okay.
She didn't say
Sure.
21. I said 1 and
Sure.
20. I mean, that's more European way from
Yeah.
small to big. So the way we say 21 itself actually came from the Arab.
Yeah.
But now those people actually saying even math is white.
And you
It's
know,
just like,
if you're going to build a bridge,
what?
if you're going to build a skyscraper, if you're going to build a space shuttle, if
Right.
you're going to build a car, just even a house, something simple. I want accuracy.
No.
I want 2 + 2 to equal
Right.
4.
Right. And how about the pyramid? Right.
Yeah, that was accurate.
Right. You
How
have
they did
to.
it, we still don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Some kind of crazy. But the thing is, I'm still trying to figure out why the school board members and the administrators, why they bought in that.
Because school board members, okay, so there's a long history. A couple of decades ago, a few decades ago, schools started consolidating.
Mm-hmm.
They started consolidating because it was cheaper, it was easier, and so small districts joined into large districts, and so you had much less local representation.
Mm.
The school boards, you might have had a 7-member school board in 5 different towns.
Mm.
And then when those 5 different towns created one school district, there's still only a 7-member school board.
Right.
And so you were less likely to know the people on the school board, and they are less likely to know you.
Right.
And that, I think, put a wall up for accountability.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't just go to your local, wherever, and run into all of your school board members in the course of a couple of weeks and say, hey, what about that? Because they were living in different towns. And I think we lost that. And even in the cities, we have these massive, massive school districts with 7 or 9 member boards.
Right.
And they're not reflective of the citizenry,
No.
of the people who use the system.
Right.
Many people who now run for school board, they're professionals. Some of them don't have kids. Some do. And I think we lost that real local control.
Right.
And with that loss of control, parents kind of went to sleep about what was going on in schools. They have been taught over, a generation now, 2 generations, to trust the experts.
Right.
Forgetting that you are the expert in your child.
Right. Exactly.
I don't care how many years of college that school administrator has. They don't know your child.
They don't know. Even teachers don't know.
Yeah.
Because I taught in a private school. I mean, even like in my school, I had like about less than 20 kids for one class, but I have 6 classes, right? Mm-hmm. There's no way for me to know each one personally. It's just impossible to do that. Yeah. And also, what kind of, in a way, bothered me is the mindset of the school board members. Mm-hmm. They were kind of just basically
because their mindset. They don't know you, so they don't feel accountable to you.
Well, I'm thinking like they treat the parents as ignorant, kind of. Yeah. Know nothing.
It has become all about educational theory and not about the child.
Right.
And how many, in the course of my lifetime, I can't even count how many different ways schools have tried to teach mathematics. Yeah. And not any of them have been successful, which is why we have some of the worst math scores in the world.
Right. Well, the thing
because
is,
it's all about theory.
What pushes it down is by people, in my opinion, they probably have never taught in a real class setting.
Oh, the theorists haven't. Yeah.
So they are like they got their PhDs in whatever IU, let's say IU. They really do not understand how the kids think, how the kids learn.
They've never been hardcore in a classroom.
Right.
Some of them don't even have their own kids.
Right.
So they have no real understanding of kids.
Right. Yeah.
It's all about theory.
Yeah,
And
my
theory doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, actually my wife went to IU. She did her master study at IU Bloomington school education. Her supervisor had no kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean a lot of people
So
like
how
that.
does that person teach? And it's not to say that people who have all this education know nothing, okay? Because I am like you, I think that critical race theory, critical
Mhm,
social justice, all of it is open for conversation
mhm.
at a college level, at a master's level,
Yeah,
we should
graduate
be talking
graduate
about
level.
everything.
Yeah. Mhm,
But to have people who have very little experience with kids
mhm.
in charge of all these kids is really a little bit ridiculous. And
Yeah,
parents need to be in schools more.
yeah,
I mean, you think about it, there was almost always a parent in classrooms. There were
yeah.
parent helpers, and now we hire people to do what parents
Right,
used
right,
to do.
right. Yeah,
And again, we live in a different world. Two parents have to work. I get that.
yeah.
But it has created this accountability vacuum.
Right. And also there is a way, I mean, at least there is a push that they are trying to push parents out of school, out of the classroom,
Yeah.
because they think they are the expert and
Yeah.
they don't want really, yeah.
Yeah. And if you, I mean, they think they're the expert primarily because of how they're taught. And I don't blame teachers.
Mhm.
I think most teachers they go into it with the right attitude.
Oh, yeah,
They really do want to help.
they want to help.
I think much of what is happening, if you look at almost any college, university, school of education, and you look at what their priorities are, it is laced with critical race
Oh,
theory,
yeah, yeah,
critical
yeah.
social
Yeah,
justice.
yeah.
It's
Well,
laced with that. So these student teachers, they are getting so much of that, and the emphasis
mhm.
is on all of that, and it's not on the mastery of, if you're a social studies teacher, you don't really have to be a master of social studies. You have to master the CRT stuff.
Right, right. Yeah.
That's the priority.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
You
a
don't have
lot.
subject matter masters anymore.
Yeah. Well, when my wife was studying at IU, I mean, her professors told them that their job is to make social activists.
Yeah.
I mean, a
I
lot
mean,
of
that's in the
teachers,
priorities.
right?
Again, I've
It's not.
spent,
So it's not about the parents. It's not about kids. It's about
not
social
about
justice.
education.
It's not about education. No, not about academics. It's
Exactly.
social justice. So they are trying to. I mean that, but a lot of, especially new teachers, brought that in. I mean that's what they been indoctrinated
Well, they're
in
trying to
college.
create child soldiers
Yeah.
in this ideological war.
Right.
And in a physical war, I think we're all pretty against child soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
because we know that
Right.
soldiers,
Right.
that's something you have to choose to
Right.
go
Right.
in
Right.
and defend your homeland,
Right. Right. Right.
defend.
Yeah.
But kids are being used experimentally
Right.
and and they're trying to create this little army of
Oh yeah, yeah,
activists.
yeah. Well, that's why it kind
Um,
of, in a way, remind me of Cultural Revolution, and that's how
yeah,
Mao used mostly actually high school and middle school students to really
yeah,
to turn this. I mean, it brings such a destruction to the Chinese culture. I mean,
yeah,
many valuable historical documents or books were burned during that
yeah,
time, and many
yeah.
artifacts were destroyed. It's such a uh, you know,
And
very sad destruction
when you
of the
see,
Chinese tradition.
you see what has gone on in Cuba, you see what's gone on in China, you see
Yeah,
what's going on right now in Venezuela.
right.
Um, at the beginning of it, it all sounds good.
Oh yeah,
It all sounds good.
right,
Equality, equity for
right,
everybody.
right,
We're gonna level the playing
right,
field,
right, right.
all of that stuff. But I know for sure that right now the people of Venezuela are suffering, because
Oh
when
yeah.
you force that kind of equity on
Mm-hmm.
a society, you're using force.
Right.
And that is never good.
No. I mean, that's the trick. I mean, many dictators played. You look at the Hitler, and look at Mao and Stalin, and they all say that, give me power so that I can make your life better. At least we can, make poor people, we have equal. I mean, the rich people are bad and poor people are good. So we're going to, like I said, level the ground. But once they gather the power, then they are going to do something.
But every one of them also, every single one of them also had said, don't worry about the parents, the adults.
All right.
If we have the schools,
Yep.
we can create what we want to create.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is something I think most Americans are not aware of, that, because most Americans, they just like wants to, have a life, go work and build a family, but so they don't have time for those kind of histories. But like,
we have a luxury here.
Right.
We have the luxury of affluence.
Right.
Because even poor people in America have more than
rich people
almost anywhere else in the world.
Even than rich people in other countries.
Yeah. And so our middle class is incredibly wealthy comparatively.
Right.
And so they just have this luxury of sitting back and being able to critically pick apart our country.
Right.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah. Let's get back to FAIR, because I really want you to. So what are you doing in Indiana for FAIR?
Well, in Indiana, our organization in Indiana is shifting. We've had a few people who now are on board with the national organization. There are some really good and large organizations, parents organizations already in Indiana. So we haven't been trying to create a big, massive organization in Indiana. I try to be visible on some of the Facebook pages, some of the various places where I know there are a lot of other parents.
Yeah.
Because there's work being done. We right now are a resource. We have webinars that we offer. If you have an issue, like whether it's in school or at work, we have like Fair School, Fair Medical, Fair Tech, all these different branches, if you will. So that if you go and you have to do a DEI training and you have to have some kind of a purity pledge, which is happening all over the place.
What is a purity pledge?
I pledge to adhere to Ibram Kendi's anti-racist policy. I mean, like it is, yeah.
So who is asked to do?
Some places, before you can even get hired, as part of the interview, you have to sign these documents, and that's unconstitutional. I mean, it just, they're like.
And that is also
purity pledges, like from China.
Right. Yeah, that's
but
also
it's happening. Teachers are being asked.
Wow, that's evil.
It is, and so we have a fair transparency where anytime somebody from any field runs across, knows about, experiences themselves something like this, we're asking them to get on to fair transparency and report it.
Right.
And if it is something that is particularly egregious, that has very clear legal lines that have been crossed, then we will contact that person and get more information. If it's a little bit like, yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you, but we're not sure that that's a hard case, that's up for, interpretation, but we're still collecting the stories.
Right.
And where we find particularly egregious things going on, then we're helping people connect with attorneys in their own locations. We may help with some funding of some of that. We may help them connect with another organization like FIRE. and I, off the top of my head, I can't even remember what that stands for, but
Mm,
it's a freedom of speech.
okay.
And they will bring lawsuits, or the Alliance Defending Freedom, or,
Right.
and in some cases, the ACLU,
Right.
because they also are a civil rights organization. So we are connecting people with the resources. And
Okay.
at sometimes we will help supply some resources.
Right,
But
right,
by and
right.
large, we're connecting, we're educating.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful.
We're
And
partnering. There's a number of other, and because I'm a chapter leader for FAIR for Indianapolis, but I also am a supporter of an organization actually started over in UK, but has a good presence in the US right now too.
oh,
Helen Pluckrose's organization, Counterweight,
oh, okay.
and she has a whole list of alternative DEI programs, for
Oh, okay.
instance,
I see.
because there are times, I mean, in the news here last week, there was an incident up in Westfield that sounds on the surface, and again, just from the news report, it sounds on the surface like there was a very racist incident that happened.
Mm,
And so, yeah, there's some training that needs to happen, maybe. And
mm.
again, based on the news, it could
Right,
have
right,
been
right.
totally
Well,
blown out of proportion, but it might actually be true.
right, right.
And so when needed, we like to be able to help set, Counterpoint helps to set you up with the right kind of DEI training
Okay.
that is much more human. It's much less about race and
Right,
more
right.
about real diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they've got a number of Chloe Valdery's program, the Fear of Enchantment.
So things
fabulous.
things are pretty bad in UK too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And here's the weird thing. Most Americans don't know this. The UK has no constitution. So Americans, we can just go, well, that's unconstitutional. But in
Oh,
the UK, they have their body of law. So as society changes, their body of law changes.
oh,
And if it goes too far left and there are precedents set, if the body of law swings too far left, the law will still favor that left leaning.
okay.
And so right now in the UK, they're really trying to bring it back to center
Mm.
because they don't have a constitution.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It blew my mind when I first heard about it. I'm like, wow. But that is, and again, that was the great American idea.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Who had done that before? Nobody.
Nobody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really in a way it's experiment at that time. And
It
of
still
course,
is.
yeah, it's proven, I mean, it works pretty well, at least for Americans, right?
Well,
Yeah.
but when you look at all the countries around the world, I want to, God, there are dozens of countries around the world who have modeled their constitutions after the American Constitution.
Well, China did.
So it's, yeah, it's really, it's interesting.
Yeah,
But
it didn't work in China because there is no grassroots because the Chinese Communist Party has destroyed all the local communities.
yeah.
So that way, then there is no one to really say push back.
Yeah, and that's
So,
what's going on in Venezuela right now.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what's
I
going on
mean,
in Cuba.
many countries when they're trying to copy from America, they
Well,
pretty
they
much
do
they
it.
run into the same problem. Is that
Yeah.
whoever got into power, they
Somebody hijacks it
yeah.
based on a
And
prior.
China has changed their constitution several times.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks nothing like our constitution.
No. I mean, at the first constitution was modeled from American constitution, but pretty soon they changed that. So they put the one party rule into constitution. So they can
Yeah.
say they are constitutional because
Yeah. Who's going to oppose me? Yeah.
no, yeah, raise your hand.
But yeah, Counterweight does some fabulous things.
Oh, that's great.
And it's counterweightsupport.com.
Right.
And then there's another one too. As you get, I think part of the problem that we're having is talking to each other, talking to people who disagree with you. Because there's emotion and there's irrationality, and again, on both sides.
Right.
And there's an organization called Braver Angels.
What's that say?
Braver Angels.
Oh, Braver Angels.
Yeah, Braver Angels. And it's braverangels.org. And they will help you have reasonable conversations with people who are on opposite sides of you, not just politically. If you are a young person and you just do not understand how old people think, you think they really should all go retire and just go away and leave the world to the young people. Well, they will help you. They'll find you an older person to talk to. And it's a guided conversation so that that older person will understand where the younger person is coming from, why they believe what they believe. And that younger person will understand the older person. And they have red and blue. Age. They have it's just a fantastic organization to learn how to have engaged conversation.
Yeah, which is something I think, unfortunately, most people don't know how to have a rational discourse nowadays because they never learned it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend Braver Angels as a great starting point, especially going into the holidays. And if you want to have a conversation with your crazy Uncle Joe, whether he's far left or far right, start with some of the material that Braver Angels puts out, because it helps you ask the right questions, and it helps you to listen to what you're saying, because you might be the one that's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's where we really need to go, go back to classical liberalism, and because that had our country actually was founded on that those concepts. Our ethics definitely is Judeo-Christian ethics, but as a government, that was funded based on classical liberalism.
All of the founding fathers, all of them, and most of their wives, the founding mothers, all of them were really very well versed in the philosophy, in all of the philosophers of the past. They were so much better educated than we are today. And they,
the thing is, you don't really need to go to college. To have a good education. Back then, most of them just only have like a elementary school education. But back then, elementary school education, they help you probably better than today's high school. But
I have a copy of my grandmother's 5th grade grammar book. And she died about, I want to say 8 years ago. And she was 100 years old when she died, born in 1913. So this is her 5th grade grammar. And a college kid could not do
I understand.
it. They just couldn't do it.
No. Even today, you read the Common Sense, read the Federalist Papers. Man, it's not that easy to read by today's education. The education
part of it is the syntax is different, and things move on, and I get that, because even Shakespeare, until you get a flow of the rhythm of it, it can feel very foreign. But we've lost the ability to think through it.
Actually, I always wants to write an essay. It's called The New Dark Age in America, because that's what we have now. Because we lost, people are not reading classics. So if we don't read it,
because they're white, they're white men. We can't have that.
Even before that, but
the thing is, Frederick Douglass read them all. Frederick Douglass found his voice through the writings of all these people who understood what individual freedom meant.
And he actually he
there
actually
is power in that.
right. He was mostly was self-taught,
Yeah.
self-educated, because I think he only education had is I think is his mistress,
Yeah.
the wife of his master, taught him
But I
how to
mean,
read. But once he was able to read, he basically was on his own.
and Booker T. Washington, even George Washington wasn't that well educated
No,
as
no.
far
Back
as
then,
being
yeah,
sent away to school.
yeah. And I mean,
Abe Lincoln, Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass. I mean,
right. I mean, even
it-
like
it-
Benjamin Franklin,
yeah.
he only had about like fourth grade and
But fourth
fifth
grade
grade.
was reading John Locke.
Right. Yeah. Back
I
then
mean,
it's different. It's different.
yeah.
But he was able basically self-educate himself.
And many of them
Many
were.
ways. Yeah.
But
I mean, we lost that. I think in a way, our public education, what we call that mass education, is that they made the student hate to learn.
well, I think the emphasis went away from helping students have a well-educated mind
Mm-hmm.
and critical thinking into, and again, shadows of China. It is now all about workforce readiness.
Right.
It's about creating workers. It's
Yeah.
not about creating thinkers.
No.
And if you create a thinker, they'll be able to work.
Right.
They'll be able to work at anything if
Mhm.
they can think.
Yeah.
But if you're just creating workers, then when technology changes, they're going to be at a loss.
Right.
They're not
Yeah.
going to be able to think
Well, this
into the new technology.
yeah, this is what I keep hearing from business owners, is that
Yeah.
the biggest challenge they have is that they couldn't train their workers.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw a thing today, came across one of my neighborhood, not my neighborhood, but as a realtor, I gave my license up here shortly, a little bit ago. But anyway, I belong to a number of different neighborhood Facebook pages.
okay.
On one of them, there was an auto body, like a national brand auto body shop,
Mhm.
that posted a picture of a shelf in their utility room, in their storage room. And they were asking for somebody who does commercial carpentry work to come and fix this shelf. And I looked at it, and you could buy the part at Menards and in 20 minutes fix it.
Yeah.
If you could actually see
Right.
the problem.
Right.
But people today, they're trained to, this is the job that I'm trained to do. These
Right.
are the walls around the job.
Yeah.
And they can't think outside of that.
No.
And
No.
it was laughable at how little thought they had put into, I mean, it was such a simple fix.
No.
It's ridiculous.
Well, this is a thing. I mean, I think when I was teaching, I was kind of, in a way, frustrated. So I told my son at the time, he was in high school. I said, why don't my student really ask whys, really trying to understand what they are learning? And so my son kind of told me, he said, Dad, when they get to high school, they learn not to ask for why.
Yeah.
That is sad to me. I mean,
They're not supposed to ask questions.
that was so, I mean, when at the time, when I heard that, I was so sad, so depressed. And in a way, that's one of the reasons I kind of left teaching in any kind of
In a regular school.
the regular school setting. I'm doing tutoring on the side, which is a lot more fun. But I do teach at a private school.
Mhm.
It's called the Apogee School for the Gifted. So it's
Yeah.
a very small school, private, and I have like one of my classes, I have 6 students, and the other class I have about 8. So
Yeah.
so when you have environment like that, you are able to have this one-on-one relationship with the kids.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and also, I have them from elementary school. When they move out to middle school, move up high school, I am their only math teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you will be able to continue, you'll be able to build that relationship.
That continuity.
But
Yeah.
in traditional schools, you don't have that. Once they move
Yeah.
to next, you lost that. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that you have such disconnect between teachers and
Yeah.
students.
Yeah, I think continuity in education is incredibly important, and we pass kids on year to year to year to different teachers, and even the teachers. You know, one year they're teaching 8th grade, the next year they might be teaching 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Depending on where they're needed.
Right.
So we've lost that cohesive nature
Right.
of what it used to be, and therefore we've also lost the literacy.
Yeah. And also, I think the administrators have too much power.
Yeah, well, and I think
because
I think part of that is I see personally, I would love to see the federal Department of Education just completely done away with.
Well, yeah.
Because I think there are so many mandates.
Yeah.
Put on states, and then the states put them on the localities. Right. And so they have to have all these administrators to shuffle all that paper. And so teachers aren't getting paid as well as they probably could be if we didn't have so many administrators.
Right.
And therefore kids aren't getting the teaching that they need.
No.
The vast majority of money goes to administration. Right. And if we did away with a lot of that.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's a sad part of it. And the definitely the teachers union won't talk about it, is that a lot of teachers, you cannot teach the way you think is best for the students.
Oh no, you don't have time.
Right. And also, if you really care, you will be depressed.
Yeah.
I mean, that environment is really not good.
And that's also why so many teachers are leaving the field.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what that leaves us with is the teachers who, and there are still a lot of good teachers, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it also leaves us with a field of teachers who are really into radicalizing.
Oh yeah.
And who are activists. And I think that
and also
started to bubble to the top. Right. And you're seeing it now.
Yeah, and also a lot of teachers are not competent because
I talked to a friend of mine who was a longtime teacher, and she said that the requirements for teachers are just laughably sparse compared to other majors.
Right.
And it's not that people who go into teaching don't want to have a rigorous course of study.
They do. Teachers do. Yeah.
But they're not offered a rigorous course of study.
No. And also,
so I think a lot of it is going on. A lot of the blame, if you will, can be laid at the university level in these teachers' colleges. I think
and also the administrators, and then you got the teachers unions. Right. I mean,
well, and at the state level, you have all these politicians who have no idea.
No.
They're sitting on the education committee, and God love them, they got elected, and good for them, but they have no idea.
Right.
If you're a legislature from out in some rural county in northern Indiana and southern Indiana, you have no idea what the needs of IPS are.
Right.
And it's very different, and and that's where it's really easy to and lazy to say, oh, it's not about race at all, because in some areas race is an issue.
Well, the thing is,
from a different area, you may not be able to see that.
Right. And thing is, this is how I feel, what I think. I might be wrong, but most of them don't even care. Because if you do care,
I talked with I've
you can
talked with
just
a number of them,
okay.
and I also very recently, last week, I called a school board member who lives in my neighborhood. Have never really had a conversation with him about why he ran,
Mm,
why he's doing what he did. It's awfully easy to judge because of how bad it is.
right.
That none of these people know what they're doing. But after having an extended conversation with him, his heart is in the right place. I think that and this is where I think sometimes parents are going a little too far at school board meetings with the antics.
Mm,
It's out of line. There are better ways to get things done than just kind of tearing up a school board meeting. Because I think that most of the people on the school board actually do want the same things for your kids as you do. They want the best for kids. We are just disagreeing on how to get there. And
okay.
when we spend so much energy arguing about how to get there, the kids are left behind.
Mhm.
And
Well, I mean,
that's where kind of where we're at. And
but
that's why we need to figure out how to
well,
talk to each other.
yeah, this is something. The reason I say that is because what I see, at least, I mean, Carmel Clay, Brownsburg, and locally Franklin and Whiteland, and the parents exposed pornographic materials in school. Now, the school board member didn't take any action on that. I mean, like, to
Being very
me,
careful here because I have not read the books. I listened to school board members read excerpts from those books,
I mean,
and it was
parents.
shocking.
Yeah.
And I don't think some of that should probably be available, but I'm a fan of reading the entire book myself to find out what the context is, because kids today are growing up in a very different world than the world my kids grew up in, especially the world I grew up in.
Right.
It is a much more sophisticated world.
Right.
And the troubles that they have are much more sophisticated. And as a society, we have sexualized children for decades.
Right.
To a point where maybe, and I don't know because I have not read the books. That's like, I have a whole list of them. Mary from the library. I've got the list. I'm going to read all the books. I'll probably throw some across the room. But I like to have all of the information before I judge those things.
But
because some of those kids, and here's where some of the kids that I know have come from such horrific backgrounds that the material that they need is going to be more graphic than the material that some very sheltered suburban child might be ready to read. The trauma that one kid has suffered through may dictate that their reading material is going to be more coarse, more sexualized, because that's what they're trying to heal from, than some nice little suburban kid that, they're part of the Mickey Mouse Club or whatever. Do you see? We say kids are the same all over. They're not.
No, they're not. Well,
they're not. The
my
level of trauma that society has inflicted on far too many children mean that we have to be more sophisticated in the way we look at things.
Yeah, but my concern is that now the school board members, they knew those material are not appropriate. They are not even appropriate to be read in a school board meeting. Now, those same books are available in the school library. So at least what you can do is say, okay, let's do a review. Let's see what's going on here.
Yeah.
None of the school board actually did that. So in a way, they said, we don't care. At least that's the message I got as a parent and as a teacher, is that we don't care. We don't, I mean, you got your parents there, I mean, you are crazy. I mean, whatever you said there, I mean, will allow you, give you 2 minutes.
And that goes back to the we're the expert and you're not, so just go home
Right.
and shut up.
Yeah, and the
which is not helpful.
no, and comically even made that worse, because first of all, they moved their meeting from evening to in the morning, so that
yeah, there were some issues that Carmel Clay did
that, and then they even totally just stopped that. They just do that everything virtual. It's just like that's the worst response you could get.
There were transparency issues with some of the stuff Carmel Clay did that I have concerns about. Yeah. And I'm hoping that parents will, take a legal route, and kind of fix that, because there are laws on the books. Carmel Clay, you just read their website, and they tell you what they're supposed to be doing. And if they're not doing it, you do get to hold them legally accountable for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I really enjoying kind of this conversation with you, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have more in the future, because I appreciate what FAIR has been doing, and I definitely learned a lot from Barry Wise. Her podcast and all that. So there are people, even though which they have different view from us, or politically we are kind of in a different point in spectrum, but at least I think those people we can have a conversation with. We can have a rational discussion, and we can learn from each other. But right now, I think the main stream media is trying even to kind of smear the people like that.
Yeah. And I appreciate, because I know that I probably come at a lot of this from a more liberal view than you do. But I always appreciate our conversations, because it gives me a better understanding of exactly where you're coming from. And I hope that I am enlightening you a little bit on maybe
Thank you
coming from a little bit more liberal point of
well
view.
Actually
I think we agree about a lot, but there's probably
I actually I shifted from liberal to conservative is because when after I moved to Indiana, and to get to know people. I mean, I think that's important. You get to know people. They have different political view from you, but they are decent, good people. But that's sometimes, like when I was in Canada, all I hear is bad things about the conservatives.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was a liberal because of that. And I also have the wrong view of America from even the American media, because in Canada, we watch anything we know about America.
Canada likes to think we're their crazy cousin, and
well, it's not just it's not Canadian media, it's the American media. I mean, ABC, CBS, and NBC, they give us a view that those crazy conservatives, they are but when I moved to Indiana, actually I moved I moved to Johnson County, right? And that's where I got to know people. I mean, say, oh,
and I moved here from Maine. Yeah, and I was a Republican in Maine.
Oh, really?
A Republican in Maine is a Democrat almost anywhere else in the country. so yeah, I'm kind of I'm alt middle.
Right. That's good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.